Okay, so let's get into this. You've taken the plunge, right?
Yeah.
You're using modern data tools. You've probably got Airbyte up and running.
Yeah, the connectors are live. Data seems to be flowing.
Exactly. It looks like everything's working. But, based on all the stuff we've been digging into, articles, notes, some research, there's this big question we got to ask.
Which
Is your pipeline just kind of running, or is it actually running? Like, well, are you really optimized?
or are you just using the defaults? That's really the heart of it, isn't it? It comes up again and again in the material we looked at. For
Right.
so many teams, they get to that first stage. Hey, data's moving, whether it's Airbyte Cloud or self-hosted. And look, it feels like a win. And it is.
Yeah.
Airbyte's great for that. It's flexible, tons of connectors. It makes that first step pretty straightforward. But the sources we reviewed, they really emphasize that getting installed, getting things syncing, that's not really the finish line. It's more like the starting gun, for actually optimizing the whole setup.
Right. Okay. So that's our mission for this deep dive then. We need to pull out the key takeaways from all this source material about what optimization really means for Airbyte. Like beyond just flipping the switch to on.
What does the research say makes the real difference?
Exactly.
And the sources are pretty clear. Optimization isn't something that just happens. It's an active thing, a deliberate process you have to undertake.
And why bother? What's the big payoff?
Well, the why is pretty compelling, actually. It hits your bottom line costs. It affects how fast you get your data.
Performance.
Yeah. And crucially, it impacts how reliable the whole thing is, your data platform's dependability.
Okay, so those feel like the three main areas the sources kept circling back to. Cost, performance, and reliability. Let's maybe tackle cost efficiency first.
Yeah.
What did the source material flag as common problems there?
Yeah, good place to start. A really common theme was overspending, and often without even realizing it.
How's that happen?
The sources pointed to, well, often simple things, like syncing data way more often than the business actually needs, or pulling in every single column from a source table when you only need maybe 5 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Or just relying on full table refreshes constantly when an incremental sync just grabbing the new or changed stuff would be way, way more efficient. Less data transfer, less processing.
So it sounds like a lot of it boils down to just being more deliberate, thinking harder about what data you sync and how often and how you sync it.
Precisely. Tuning those schema selections, like you said, picking just the columns you need, and really double-checking you're using incremental syncs wherever it makes sense.
And crucially, actually watching your resource use.
Yeah.
Whether that's your Airbyte cloud credits ticking up, or if you're self-hosting, what you're actually spending on cloud infrastructure, VMs, storage, whatever.
Yes. The sources really hammered this point home. Without actively monitoring consumption, you're basically just flying blind on costs. You won't know until the bill hits.
Right. That makes sense.
And that active monitoring piece, it often leads right into the second pillar, performance. Because usually faster syncs are better, right? We want data quickly.
Generally, yeah. But the sources seem to add a bit of nuance there, didn't they? It's not just about raw speed inside Airbyte.
Exactly. This is where, based on the research, things get kind of interesting. It might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes batching up larger amounts of data less frequently can actually perform better overall for the whole system than sending tiny trickles constantly.
Okay.
And the sources also really highlighted looking at things outside Airbyte. External dependencies. Are you bumping up against API rate limits on your source systems? Is Airbyte hitting those sources so hard it's slowing them down?
Or on the other end, can your data warehouse actually ingest the data as fast as Airbyte is trying to send it?
That's a huge point the research emphasizes. A truly performant pipeline thinks about the whole journey, the entire data ecosystem. If you ignore bottlenecks upstream, like in the source application, or downstream in the warehouse, you'll still end up with slow or failing pipelines. Even if Airbyte itself is perfectly tuned, it's about optimizing that entire flow.
Makes sense. Optimize the whole chain, not just one link.
You got it.
And optimizing that whole flow, that feels absolutely essential for the third pillar. Reliability. I mean, at the end of the day, you just need the data to show up correctly when people expect it.
Exactly. And reliability, according to the sources, isn't just a simple, did the sync finish, yes, no. It's more proactive.
How so?
It's about looking for warning signs, anticipating problems, Having visibility. Are your sync times slowly getting longer week after week? Are you seeing weird drops or big spikes in the number of rows synced? Are certain errors popping up repeatedly?
Okay, so monitoring trends, not just failures.
Yes. And the notes we looked at also really stressed, especially for folks self-hosting Airbyte, that reliability means taking care of the underlying infrastructure. You can't just set it and forget it.
What does that involve?
Things like managing upgrades properly, making sure the containers are healthy, keeping an eye on Kubernetes configs if you're using that. It needs ongoing care, not just running on autopilot until something breaks.
So, moving beyond just looking at the job status page, implementing like proper monitoring, alerting, and for self-hosted, really treating the infrastructure seriously.
Professional grade infrastructure management, yeah.
The sources use some good examples, right? Like imagine you're scaling up, the company's growing, everyone's happy because the dashboards work.
Until they don't.
Right. Until suddenly the cloud bill spikes unexpectedly, or the crucial nightly syncs start failing, and suddenly key reports are broken when people walk in the morning.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture from the research, this is exactly where optimization stops being just a technical nice to have and becomes a real business imperative.
How so?
By actually doing the things the sources talk about, like setting sensible sync frequencies, trimming schemas down to what's actually used, actively tracking costs, monitoring the pipeline end to end, you can directly prevent those kinds of painful surprises.
And the upside, the practical result.
Your analysts get data they can trust when they need it. Your finance department isn't shocked by the cloud bill, and your data engineering team, they're not constantly putting out fires.
Yeah, they're not stuck in that reactive firefighting mode. They can actually build new things, add more value.
And what's really interesting is how the source material framed this, mastering these optimization skills. It's a big deal for data professionals' careers.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Knowing how to just set up a connector is table stakes now, right? But really understanding performance tuning, cost analysis, how to monitor proactively, how to ensure reliability, that makes you a much more valuable engineer. Someone who builds resilient, efficient systems. It really sets you apart.
It sounds like the difference between having a data system that just sort of exists, maybe creaking along.
Versus one that actively powers the business, delivers tangible value through being efficient and dependable.
It saves money, gets data where it needs to go faster, and builds that all-important trust in the data platform across the whole company.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, wrapping this up, after digging into what these sources tell us about getting beyond the basics, what does it mean for you listening right now? Is your Airbyte setup truly working for you? Is it optimized for cost, for performance, for reliability?
Or is it maybe just working, quietly racking up technical debt, maybe some hidden costs running on those default settings?
Yeah.
Because the sources really underscore that staying optimized isn't like a one-time fix. It's an ongoing thing, a discipline.
So the final thought to leave you with, drawing from this research,
Right.
what does staying optimized really look like for your specific data sources, your data volumes, and whatever your business needs next? That feels like the key question to chew on.